Hey y'all, welcome to my mini series, The Process Chat, where I bring conversations around getting started in business, exit planning, and everything in between. I'm Adriana, your operational guide to helping you build processes so you can focus on progress. Today's episode is all about process development and policy development. I kind of threw that in there. So, with these, what many people don't realize is that policy and process development is really dependent on how you are currently as a person. So there's like a lot of mindset and everything that goes into it. So when you're building things out in business, and honestly, this is not limited to business, but of course, show is about business, but this is not limited to business. So you can honestly apply this advice to any aspect of your life. But because policy and process development is dependent on how you are as a person, how you're developing, when you're creating like these goals and stuff for yourself, all of this is going to be reflective on that. So that being said, let's get into what is process and policy development. So process development, the easiest way to remember this is the actions you take. So the development of the actions that you're taking to achieve a goal. And policy development, I like to call these are like the rule books that you live by. So these are the rules that you implement. So in business, the rules that you implement, the policies and everything other people have to follow for your life, these are like your non-negotiables. So these are like the rules that you created based on who you are as a person. So with that, we want to focus on what example do I want to use today? So we'll stick to business. So I'll just talk from how I usually perform services. So when I normally do services with businesses that want to scale, because work with scaling businesses or even exit, but we'll focus on scaling today. So for those that want to grow with a team, we'll say that, limit that a little bit more. So those that want to grow with the team, we have to figure out the first thing I'm going to ask is like, what kind of rules do you have in your businesses and what kind of process and stuff that they have to follow? A lot of people don't have strict one in place because one, these are so personal. So like you don't really think to have these things documented, play a huge role. So there's that. And then two, a lot of times we overestimate how we want these things to go. Like we're talking about it at a future standpoint when it should be just like, okay, like right now we're focusing on this and we're trying to get to this next step. So we need to make sure we develop these processes and policies this way. So it's just one of those things where you have to know and have to identify where you are. So I'm just going to actually just jump into like the next section. So focusing where you are. So whenever we're developing these things, policies, development, again, trying to stick to business because I tend to go off, but just sticking for business. Again, these are strictly dependent on you as an individual. So like if you're somebody trying to implement, we'll use like company culture, for example, because it's like a huge thing. Like people always want to make sure they're building like a good culture for their people to come into, but the culture and things that you build inside business are based off the things that you've developed in the beginning. So if you don't live by these certain things or you're trying to overshoot where you want to be at, but you don't live by it currently, it's going to be harder to implement these things because you're starting off too far. So whenever you're building out these things, you have to start off where you are. And I will preach this nonstop about like every little aspect of business, but you have to start off where you are. So like if you're developing rules, so to speak, like your policies, they need to be reflective of where you are now. So like if you're somebody like for me, I don't like being on the phone. I don't enjoy chatting on the phone like for hours on end. I don't like being booked out. I don't like being in meetings all the time. So I have to build policies that one reflect that as an individual, but also two, I have to think about like my clients and other people I have to chat to. Like I have to, it's a give and take. Like sometimes I have to give a little bit more than I want to in order for people to achieve like certain things. But like these are things you have to think about. And even with my home life, whenever I'm developing like rules for myself, like I'm somebody that thrives in quiet. I don't like having a whole bunch of noise around me. So like one of my rules or policies is to have at least half an hour of quiet time a day. So like I have to find a way to build that in. That's something doable for me. That's something realistic. So we have that. And then when it comes to processes, these are the actions that we're taking. You have to build them into how you are doing things currently. So like again, Trying to think what is a good example I could use here. I cannot think of an example right now. I should have wrote one down and I didn't. But like I just mentioned, the household thing, like coming up with the rules, having quiet time. So the actions I'll take, I'll just spin off of those too. So like the actions I'll take. So like in business, if I'm somebody that doesn't enjoy being on the phone and all that stuff, I have to find another solution to give people the same benefits. That's not the word I'm going for, but we'll stick with that until something else pops up. So it gives me like the same benefits. So like I'm honoring my boundaries, but also I'm respecting other people that come to my circle. So like something I like to do is record videos. I will record a video real quick because that's just something that's easier for me to do and just to kind of like talk through things versus having to hop on the phone 5 minutes, hop on the phone again another time for a few extra minutes or 30 minutes here and there. It's just not something that I want to build in. So like I'll build in certain processes or actions I have to take or people have to take in order to fulfill something. So overall, you have to figure out where you are, whether in business or your home. Like you have to figure out where you are, build out rules for yourself and actions you need to take to fulfill those rules that you're doing. And the last thing is not super huge, but like the last thing is just making sure you have the right mindset for stuff. Because again, processes and policies are built off your mindset. And again, it's not something that's really thought of because we're the ones literally creating everything, especially if you're a small business owner, like you're literally creating everything from the ground up. So like if your mindset is not in the right frame or you're not in the right framework or you're duplicating other people's templates or copy and pasting things, it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. So that's why one of the things I always like to ask people, like, what do you live by? Like, what's your personality like? So we can build out these things to match like the processes that you're going to build out in the future and map things out. So there's that. And honestly, that's all I have really for today is just whenever you're doing process and policy development, just like a little recap, policy development is the rules that you live by. And of course, these things grow with you. Same with the processes. Everything grows with you. We're ever evolving, we're ever learning. So these things are not stuck in stone, but you want to make sure you keep them where you are at currently. So like it's easier to scale that way. And you can honestly apply like some of the things if you're from a business standpoint, you can honestly apply like the 5 levels I've talked about in past episodes to where you're at and developing the policies and things that way. So there's that. But backtracking, policy development is strictly you're coming up with the rules to live by, and then processes, the steps, the actions that you're taking. You're developing that based on the rules that you have set for yourself. This takes a whole lot of mindset work. So like if you have not if we all have a direction we're trying to go in, so you have to build things based on where you're at right now. Because again, if you're trying to overdo it, it doesn't get done, or it just comes out looking sloppy when you don't want it to, or like it's harder to stick to because you're so far in advance. And you just have to backtrack just a little bit, build it from the step that you're at, and just continue that way. And yeah, so we got policy development, process development, and then your mindset. So you master these 3 things, you will be set. And that's honestly all I got for you guys today. So I am going to talk about, what am I talking about next week? We'll be talking about what's holding back your team's performance. And if you want to stay in touch, feel free to join my free Facebook group or join not the newsletter, join the email community. I honestly email a lot more than I post Facebook. Plan to change that up soon, but whatever. But if you if you go to news.thelazymillennial.net, I have a free lean systems guide that helps you build out your processes, your policies, and everything pretty much on the level that you're at. So feel free to grab that for free, the Facebook group, and that's all I got. So see you around on LinkedIn. Next, we will be talking about your team's performance and what's holding them back and how you can fix it. And that's all I got. So I will see y'all soon.